If you're looking for music career advice for music producers and you want to take your music production career to the next level and get more production clients and fans, then you better have a clear understanding of what it really takes to be a successful music producer. Avoid making these 10 common music producer mistakes that could stop a music producer's career dead in its path before you even get started. So this video is going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of stress. As a music producer who's worked with thousands of artists through the years, I'm going to show you how to avoid these 10 common music career mistakes and be a better music producer. And I'm also going to share a power tip and strategy that every music producer needs to know. Coming up. Hey, what's up? Arty here from the Skylab Music Group, bringing you the best pro tips and advice for music producers, artists, engineers, and singers to help you propel your music and your career up to the next level. On this channel, we do a lot of tips and strategy videos as well as tech reviews. So if you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss out on any new content. All right, so let's jump into the video. So I get it. You love producing music and you want to have a career in music and do it full time. But first, you have to understand that no one in the music industry wears more hats than a music producer. At times, you not only need to be a music producer, but an engineer, a songwriter, a musician, an attorney, a studio owner, accountant, technician, and at all times, you need to be a therapist. So I compiled this list of 10 music producer career mistakes to avoid, and I'll probably do a part 2 of this video because there's way more than just 10. And I've made or witnessed them all at one time or another, so hopefully you can learn a few things to avoid making these mistakes yourself. Mistake number 1, not being honest with an artist. If an artist is coming to you to produce a song, they're really putting their trust in you, and it's a responsibility you can't take lightly. They're relying on you for your expertise, your knowledge, your experience, and your honest and professional opinion. They don't just need another cheerleader. That's what friends and family are for, no? I remember one budding music producer that was just a little too excited with everyone he met and everything he heard. He became known as a very phony guy, and eventually no one trusted his opinion because he reacted to every song as if it was the greatest thing he's ever heard. Years ago, an artist came to me. He'd been meeting with a lot of music producers and deciding who was going to produce his second album. But I was straight up and honest with him, and I told him his songwriting was excellent, but his vocals needed a lot of help. And if we were going to work together, he'd have to start vocal lessons. He seemed shocked and told me I was the only music producer that had actually told him that. But I connected him with a great vocal coach, which became one of the backup singers in his band, and I produced the album. And his vocals improved tremendously, and we got a Billboard hit single from that album. So yes, it's your job to be honest, but honesty can be delivered in different ways, which brings us to mistake number 2, not being tactful. When you're working with an artist in the recording studio, you have to realize how vulnerable that artist feels. They're baring their souls and exposing themselves. And while you might hear something that you think is horrible, how you approach communicating it to them makes all the difference. Be honest, but be kind, be considerate. Try to pick out the good points and try to understand what they're trying to do. It's your job as a music producer to help bring their vision to life. And making an artist feel ashamed or humiliated in the recording studio, sometimes in front of other people, is no way to get the best positive energy and passionate vocal performance from the artist. And you'll also destroy that special bond between an artist and a producer. I was engineering a vocal session with an experienced music producer for a new artist that the record company was considering signing. The artist wanted to experiment a little bit on the second verse, but the music producer was adamant about having him sing the exact melody as it was written, giving the artist no room for interpretation. And then he began to really berate the artist and scold him like he was a child. They started screaming at each other, and the artist stormed out of the studio, never to work with that music producer again. But the artist did get signed and went on to win a few Grammys. I could give you many more examples of this, but I think you get the general idea. Be honest, but be tactful. Mistake number 3, burning bridges. This was back in the 90s, and there was a music production team that just had a huge hit single, and they were rushing to get an album out while it was still hot. But their main engineer got very sick 2 weeks before the album needed to go to mastering, so he recommended me. I dropped everything and I worked round the clock for 2 weeks as we rushed to complete the album. So when this album dropped, I was very excited. And I went to Tower Records, looked at the vinyl, and I got really mad when I saw I wasn't credited at all for the work that I did. So I called them up, and the producer said he was happy to hear from me, and he'd been meaning to call me about a few things. But instead of letting him speak, I just went off and started screaming about how they didn't give me credit on the album. How dare they? I was met with silence on the other end of the phone until finally he kindly explained to me that the vinyl album cover went to manufacturing before I was involved in the project. But if I took the time to check the CD or the cassette, I would see that I was not only credited, but I was also mentioned in the special thanks. And boy, did I feel like a total schmuck. I tried my best to apologize and thank them, but they were done with me. I destroyed that relationship and burnt that bridge. So the lesson here is to nurture relationships, give people the benefit of the doubt, and try not to be a jerk to anyone ever. Respect everyone you meet, whether it's an intern in the recording studio or an assistant in accounting at the record label. It's the right thing to do. You also never know where people will end up years later. Mistake number 4, releasing material to the client before the project is paid in full. See if you could guess how I learned this lesson. Once you send the final mix to a client, not only is there no incentive for them to pay you, but you'll probably be losing the client forever. Think of it like this. Say you release the final mix material to the client and they owe you $3,000. They do plan on paying you in a few weeks, but now they ran into a cash flow problem. But time goes by, you still haven't been paid, and now they have another song to produce. But if they come to you, they'll first have to pay you the back money they owe you, plus the money from the current session. So they go to another studio or music producer instead, and you just lost the client and the money. It's just like you paid them $3,000 not to come back to you. But if you didn't release the final product to them, then you still have leverage to get your back pay. And if they're all caught up on payments to you, they'll continuously use you or your studio. So you get the money and you get to keep the client. Now, believe it or not, you'll also keep their respect. Sounds like the right deal to me. Disclaimer, when dealing with record labels, these parameters may change drastically. Consult your attorney. Mistake number 5, trying to alter terms after a project has been started. Often the scope of a project changes during the production time in the recording studio. It doesn't happen often with signed artists because they have more knowledge and experience, so there's less confusion about everybody's role. But sometimes when dealing with independent artists, there can be misunderstandings about someone's function. Music producers or background singers feel they're entitled to songwriting credit because they changed a few words or vocal melodies. Artists want to be co-producers because they made a few suggestions or want revisions to the mix. Engineers want co-production credit because the music producer went away for the weekend and left the engineer to produce the whole session by himself. Now, I'm not saying in any way that these people aren't entitled to the credit they asked for, but where's the line in each of these cases? A music attorney told me that intent is what really counts here. If 3 people go into a recording studio to co-write a song together and 2 people contribute 90% of the song, it should still be a 3-way split if that's what was agreed on beforehand. And trying to alter those terms after the session could really create problems, bad feelings, and burn bridges. If you feel you're being asked to do something that's really beyond the scope of the job, the best approach is to discuss it before you do the work. Transparency up front is always better for everyone. Which brings me to my next point. Mistake number 6, working on a promise instead of a contract. A lot of music producers, especially when they're first starting out, don't want to add the barrier of a contract or agreement to getting the job. Sometimes deals fall through when contracts are presented, but if they do, there's often a good chance that you might have dodged the bullet. When you spell things out on paper, everyone is clear on what's required of them and what they can expect in return. Even with good intentions, memories fail, deals get confused with others, and without something on paper, some people could be tempted to take advantage. My mistake was that a manager I knew came to me with an artist and said that a major record label was very interested in her and they gave her some money as a development deal. I was promised that if I produced the demo and the artist got picked up by the label, I'd be the music producer on the album. So I pulled out all the stops, called in favors, and stretched that small budget into a full-blown production. And the record label heard it and loved it and decided to sign the artist. It's great, right? but they wanted to use a very famous music producer instead of me. And then it came out that the artist was already signed to another big music producer. So now they battled it out, and I was left in the dust. But I learned a very valuable lesson from that, and I was only screwed out of one deal since then, which amounted to nothing anyway. But my company has a very basic agreement that we customize for all artists we work with that lays out our obligations, deal points, and compensation. I suggest you do the same. Mistake number 7, not fully understanding the artist's vision. The A&R guy at the record label told me they wanted a song like Can't Hurry Love by Diana Ross. So I wrote an original song like Can't Hurry Love up at around 130 BPM and produced it with live musicians like an old Motown record, and they loved it. And then the A&R guy goes, now all we need is the Arty Skye hip-hop flavor. What? After a long discussion, I found out what they liked about the song Can't Hurry Love was that the word love was in the title, but they wanted the Kiko's regular sound for the commercial. So now I had to basically do a hip-hop remix of the song that I just produced. It was a huge waste of time, money, and creative energy, and since then I've learned to ask many, many more questions and really drill down deep when an artist is sharing their vision and tells me they like a specific song. Well, what exactly did they like about it? I could be thinking it's a specific synthesizer or a drum sound, while often singers may be referring to a vocal arrangement or the lyrics. And the easiest way to find out is just ask. Ask a lot of questions. Go back to the old carpenter adage, measure twice and cut once. Mistake number 8, not being responsible. No one wants to work with someone they can't count on. And if you want to make music production your business, treat it with respect. That means showing up on time, every time, sober, excited, and ready to work. Respond to emails promptly. Finish projects in a timely manner. Try to exceed everyone's expectations and do what you say you're going to do when you're supposed to. This is art, and while we can't guarantee how people will respond to a song or an artist, we are music producers and we must guarantee that each artist will get the full attention they deserve. And if this is your business, your job, take it seriously. You owe that to every artist you work with because they've put their trust in you. Mistake 9, believing everything has to be 100% perfect. Perfect means different things for different people. Some music producers feel that a song is never finished, while rewrites and updates are very common. If you don't have a deadline, then you should create one and set a date that the song will be released. It's not written in stone, but this way you have something to shoot for. The problem with taking too long to finish a production is that the current sound might change from the time that you started. I knew one very talented artist that never released anything because he was always perfecting the same 3 songs for over 2 years. And to my knowledge, those 3 songs were never released, and he's probably still working on them. So don't put out garbage just to get something out, but be reasonable. And if you get a song to 97% perfect, you might just be ready to release it, whether or not that synth sound hangs over a fraction of a second too long into the bridge. Sometimes I hear a song on the radio that I've worked on, and I still want to go back and make changes. So I'm guilty of it myself, but just do the best that you can for now, and then just put it out. Mistake number 10, using uncleared samples in your song. I have a quick example for you here regarding the use of uncleared samples that really cost the record label tens of thousands of dollars. So ultimately, it cost the artist. This song I mixed was getting a lot of radio airplay, but apparently the sample was never cleared beforehand like it was supposed to be. So the music publishing company that owned the copyrights to that sample went on the attack and won a very nice settlement, probably much more than they would have had the company initially pay them for the sample like they were supposed to. It's very hard and costly to get a sample release for popular songs. And if you don't get clearance, you run the risk of being sued for whatever it is that they ask for, regardless of how much you made on the song. So my advice is to be very careful using copyrighted samples and do your due diligence to get a release. We'll put a link down below to a site that gives you more info on how to obtain a sample release. Now, here's the bonus tip. This is for all you music producers that were serious enough to actually get to this point in the video. And that tip is you need to know when to back off and just let things happen. Sometimes it's going great without you, and you only need to interfere if the train is coming off the tracks. It might be with an artist that writes his own songs and does his own tracks, and you know it already sounds fantastic. And sometimes, especially with bands, you just need to capture the magic that they already have going on. So you just need to create a pleasant environment, make sure the session runs smoothly and everyone's in a great mood. So take your ego out of it and wear the hat of a coordinator and just don't get in the way of the music. And since producing songs is a very long process with a lot of moving parts until the final mix, be patient. Somewhere along the line, your expertise and opinion will be needed and welcomed. That's why they came to you in the first place. It's a huge responsibility being a music producer because ultimately you're responsible for everything, especially the final outcome. And understand that you'll rarely get the credit or the recognition you deserve. That's reserved for the artist. But it's so rewarding taking the seed of an idea and watching it blossom into a beautiful, meaningful song that inspires everyone who hears it. And that's why we do it. Oh, stop that. There'll be none of that. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. And I hope you learned a few things here that can help you avoid some of the mistakes I made or witnessed. Is there any career advice for music producers that I left out? If there is, please let us know because I'd love to hear as well as everyone else. So please share your thoughts and any questions in the comments below. For more music production and mixing videos like this, please subscribe. And if you liked it, please take a moment and give us a thumbs up. Till next time, Skylab Music is bringing you the best pro tips and advice for growing your music career. So play it louder, and we'll talk soon.